Good morning, everybody. Looks like I'm live. Good to see you. I've got the camera a little bit higher up today. I figured out the problem with these crazy modern newfangled touchscreens is that the camera was slightly touching it at the top. And as a result, it was going all crazy daisies during our talks. Good morning, Linda. Good morning, Cynthia. Good morning, Doreen. Good morning, Catherine. And Linda, different Linda, Linda H and Linda B, both on. Good morning, Penny and Joelle. The snow has melted, but it's a bit chilly. I bet it is, right? Sheila, good morning from Washington. Woolen Life. Hi, Deanna, friends. Made it in from Chicago. Chicago's a big subject today, so that is good. I'm really glad that you made it. Crystal, good morning. Hello, everybody. Good morning, Carol, Janice. Good morning, Chrissy. It's time. So hopefully my eyeballs aren't going crazy today because now I'm supposed to look there, and I've just got to remember that. I'm not seeing the mama bear, but maybe she comes on later. Good morning, everybody. Good to see you all. Good morning, Sharon from ND, North Dakota. I'm super familiar with South Dakota, not so much North Dakota. That's got to be on the list of things to do in the near future. I hate to say bucket list because it sounds so depressing and permanent. I like to think of life not as a bucket that is neither full nor empty, but something, I hope to get every place 100 times before I die at this point. I'm still there. Good morning, April. Now, we have been doing such, I just love the subject this week when we were doing our book on, I'll just show you the calendar one more time. We started with the calendar, Mary Shepard Burton, the Tell Me About series. We were doing this the last few days, talking about her work in books. And, I just love her so much for her storytelling quality. And I just wanted to stick with that for a little while because, of course, tomorrow is our big blowout cocktail night, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And I have put the treasured set of bingo cards, rug hooking bingo cards, all a rug hooking theme on ribboncandyhooking.com. $3 a card. As soon as I listed them, 10 people bought cards. And I thought, oh, you little gamblers, this is going to be fun. And it is going to be fun. It's going to be probably an extended episode tomorrow night, a slight Halloween theme, fall theme with the cards. It's going to be so much fun. Everything was super time consuming doing this, but I think it's going to be worth it because now we have the prototype to be able to do bingo games and I can theme them a little bit differently each time. So that'll be so much fun for us. I'm really looking forward to tomorrow. Good morning, Beverly. Good morning, Donna. So I'm going to stick with the theme, not of Mary, because I think we have to move on, sadly, for the moment. We'll always come back to Mary. But, I was looking at one of the books that I showed you about storytelling, and this is a book, Good Morning, Amber, from frosty Alberta. I bet you Canadians must be so cold right now because even in southern New England, and I would trade with you any second of the day, any day, it is, it's chilly. It's been wet and clammy and moldy and grim and bleak for a few days. And I keep reminding myself, first of all, this is the week of Halloween and this is a time for the kids, so get happy. And secondly, we're heading into winter. And as, the days get shorter and can't help but think of that shortest day and how far away it is and how the days will only get shorter until then. When you think beyond that sort of tunnel vision thought, you have to remember and think about how pretty the winter sun will be and how bright the winter sun is. So that's coming too. We just have to keep reminding ourselves there's a lot of brightness on the horizon if you're also getting that cold and cold, wet weather. So let's look at this book. I'm recommending this book hugely high. This is Rug Hooking Magazine Press that put this out. Story Rugs, Rug Hooking in the Narrative Style by Paulette Hackman. So I'm showing this close up. I have my Halloween nail polish on, so I'm all ready to go. This book is such a classic. You bought it. You have to have this in your library of great books, particularly if you like story rugs, and history and that's my favorite genre. And if you watch the show, you probably like it too, because I so often come to rugs that tell stories. I really believe in rug hooking as like your own personal memory museum where you can keep all your treasured memories and thoughts and keep the good things in, put the bad things out, leave those out, but put the things that you want to remember in. And that's sort of the thrust of this book, is looking at a bunch of different rug hooking artists who whose special genre is storytelling rugs, and telling about their particular stories and what brought them to hooking and what their particular rugs are about. And it's a fantastic book. We're going to look at this in detail. So Storytellers. So I'm only going to look at a few of the storytellers in this book because it's another great book. And again, I don't want to spoil the book. I want you to get the book if you're interested in it. But I want to look at some of these people who you may not have heard of, and I hadn't heard of. So I was really happy to find them and to read this. I'd read this book a few months ago, and I came back to it because Mary Shepard Burton was in here, and I had it out yesterday. So I looked at it again, and I thought, wow, there's a lot in here for us to think about and research. And I went down a few rabbit holes at 4:30 in the morning when I woke up and took the book downstairs with me so I didn't wake anybody else up. So I'm not going in any particular order. I'm just looking at the ones that I personally like the best, the style of the artist that I like the best, and yours will probably be different. But the first one I looked at that I could not let go is Marian Sykes. I'm going to show you her page, and then I'm going to show, I printed off a lot of extra stuff because of all those rabbit holes. This is her name, and these are the first two pages with her work. And we're going to come back. We're going to come back to the pictures and everything. I want to show you some pictures of her because she is just the sweetest looking lady. Look at this. She's with one of her rugs there. Now, this is where the Chicago connection is going to come in. So I'll get there in a minute. But she is, I was looking her up this morning because everything I found on her was like a few years old. And I know she was 80 when she was introduced to rug hooking. So she has Grandma Moses speed. And it turns out that now, I checked this morning, you can so accidentally and easily do like a criminal background check of someone just by typing their name in the internet. So I hope that didn't have any repercussions because I just typed her name and it pulled up her criminal record, which was not at all. And it turns out she's 95 years old. God bless her. Sweet little thing. And she is in this picture here smiling in an article for a local newspaper that did a beautiful feature on her. I'm going to show you that too. But I just want to tell you a little bit about her and her story because she is a remarkable artist. We're going to look again at her pieces. So she is from Chicago, and everything that she hooks will have Chicago in it. For example, this first piece is called North Avenue Beach. And I'll tell you before I show you in this picture, well, let me see if I can do both at the same time. Chicago is over here in the distance here because she, in every one of her compositions, tries to incorporate her place, which is Chicago, and her family, which is huge. So this is them at the beach. And this is, what is this, Lake Michigan? Yeah, Lake Michigan in 1965. Barbara, one of her daughters, is there with the two best friends at the time. They were all 12 years old. And apparently the girls went to the beach. Let me see if I can point it out. It's hard to see. Went to the beach and were mouthing off, acting like bullies, saying swears. And the lifeguards, again, this is the 60s. The lifeguards got so triggered by it that they took the three girls and put them into a garbage can and put the lid on for them to cool off. Can you imagine if that happened nowadays? I'm sure it was richly deserved, but it's just funny how times have changed in not very much time. So this is the day at the beach. And besides having that moment of Barbara and her friends being imprisoned in a garbage can, there's like a mother who's chasing a little naked baby to get a diaper on. I'll show you closer up. There's a man on a fishing boat, and she even gave him a little fish to satisfy that. There's a woman very flatly posed on a towel. I love the flatness of it. It reminded me of Mary from yesterday, using elements that are like looking at it from an aerial point of view, and then very flat elements. So, I mean, it's a real mix-up. Now, she is untrained, Marion. Obviously, she came to hooking in her 80s when one of her daughters bought her a kit because she'd been a crafter her whole life, making toys for her girls and her kids and extended family, and very, very crafty. And in her 80s, she was obviously looking for a new craft. So her daughter bought her a rug hooking kit. And she immediately got going on it. She did the kit, but she immediately wanted to start telling her own stories and just drawing her own stuff onto backing. And it immediately became a huge passion and preoccupation with her. I'll look at the article in a minute, but the writer of the article for the local paper describes her place as very small and tidy, and just the walls loaded with her rugs instead of paintings, because each one is a story. And of course, every part of it is part of her story. Good morning, Janice. And you were born and raised in Chicago, and you went to that beach often. How nice, right? Nice connection. And even in this picture here, where this is like a ballet studio where one of her daughters took ballet for apparently 2 years, you still see Chicago out the window. And the interesting part to me of this composition, you know, she said it was like the 2 best years. It was like 2 teenage years of her daughter's life. She just so wistfully thought of those days in dance, but more specifically of the room where you would change, not so much the doing the dancing, but the room where you would sit with your friends and lower your voice and tell things that you wanted to tell and you'd just been waiting. Those, you know, great moments of childhood and growing up. She captures them so well in this book. She shows, I'm going to show you the next page with a couple of her things. Each one of her compositions is such a complete story. 2 more of Chicago here. This one here is the 4th of July, and you can see the crazy sort of floral fireworks all over the sky, like daisies of explosions. And she even commented, this building under my finger, what did she call that? I'll see if it comes to me. It's like it's a regular building, like a apartment building, but she said she tried to make it look like it was standing off to the side, so it looked more like a rocket, in keeping with the 4th of July theme. And there's the whole neighborhood celebrating the 4th of July in front of, she lived in the one on the far right with the red door. The article says that. So this was hers here, and these apartments were called Coldwater Flats. I guess that's pretty self-explanatory, but it doesn't sound very comfortable. It sounds like she had a really hard life. So she says in here that she chose to tell stories that specifically offset the hardships that she had lived through. She was a runaway from an orphanage, and there was a lot. She was from southern Italy, so there was a lot of prejudice, and there was a lot of abuse, and she had no education. And these are the things that she doesn't make rugs about. She makes rugs about the things, you know, that lift her up. But you know, she was a single parent, and it seems like she had it very, very hard, but still such a happy lady with so many stories to tell. This one is of the worst snowstorm in Chicago. Apparently, this is the winter of 1967, 26 inches of wet snow. Meanwhile, the mayor is on vacation in Florida, so nobody puts in an order for the streets to be salted or cleared, and the entire city is shut down, including the trains and the L and everybody's transportation. Grocery stores are not able to open because they can't get deliveries. People are not able to get to work, and this goes on all week. And apparently the kids were having a ball, as you can imagine, in the city spaces like this park. And then here's her house again. This is her house here. And then here's the house that she turned into a rocket in the last picture. And then these are all the neighborhood kids. Here is one of her daughters selling snowballs for 2 cents a piece. She's got a little sign out. And they built an igloo, apparently, that they kept stuffing the family dog down into the igloo, and he kept escaping out the bottom. But great times, although she does remark that when it was over and the mayor came back and the city opened up, that it was a relief, as you can imagine. But I mean, her stories are just over the top, beautiful stories. She writes that she works in a number 6, and she has a really unusual way of working in that she cuts tons of number 6 and all the colors that she expects to need, and then she starts rolling them into a ball, all one color, like yarn. Because remember, she did a lot of other crafts too, so she's used to the handling the tangibility of sort of a yarn ball that you can put it down and pick it up, unlike strips. So she winds all of her strips into a ball and just keeps adding strips and winding. And when she needs a strip, she just pulls it off the ball and then puts the ball back down. So she's adapted her hooking to meet her needs. And she obviously is a person who does things her way, which is wonderful. Joss is trying to photobomb us. Don't come near because the technology is crazy. You can blast out tomorrow. And this one's beautiful. This is of a state park because apparently she and her sister, they both had huge families. Like I think one had 6 kids and one had 5. They would have to shuttle back and forth in the sister's station wagon once a week in the summer to get to the state park here. You know, I wonder, is Chicago? No, Chicago's not in this one at all because it can't be, I guess. It would be too far-fetched. but this is White Pine State Park. Her work is done on linen, by the way, but you can see she said her and her sister always took the kids and immediately settled at the first picnic table shelter place because it was the closest to the bathroom. Practical with all of those kids, right? You have to be practical. So I looked her up, and I also found in NWI.com. That's the website. It's Northwestern Indiana newspaper. So I found a beautiful article on her that was written when she was 89, so 6 years ago, not far away. That must be nice. Nice hearing about this place. I've only ever been through Chicago on my touring days, probably 100 times, but never had the chance or the time to get out and walk around, and I would love to. So this article was done when she was 89, and she claimed in the article that she was not a real hooker because she uses a lot of yarn and she cuts the pile more like a tufted rug. So she doesn't work with loops, and thus she considers herself not an artist. I mean, come on. So she's got 3 daughters, and I think she has a son too. She got the kit. I told you she got the kit from her daughter. And then for the next few years, her and her daughters were just running around Salvation Army and all the thrift stores to try to find sweaters like we've been doing, and wool coats and things to cut up because they weren't going to buy supplies. They were using all recycled stuff. So all this beautiful work of hers that you're seeing, all recycled stuff from thrift stores. This is one that I pulled off that website, or possibly a different article about her. This is one of 10 hooked rugs that are on her living room wall. And this is a nice little farm scene. So this must hark back to her. Well, she grew up in an orphanage. I'm not sure what that harks to. She has some that are a little bit different, but you can see the geese or the ducks are flying, and there's geese in the pond. Very naive and sweet. But that's one of the ones that's on her living room wall. And I have to show you, I showed you this, right? This nice picture of her. What a sweetheart. I have to show you my favorite of her. Her kids dressed up for Halloween. This one's appropriate for now, but just, it's so whimsical. It's so, I don't want to say naive because it's not naive. It's folk art. And, it's inexpertly drawn, which makes it folk art, which makes it successful. I love this style. If this rug ever comes up for sale anywhere, I will give my hair as a wig and every body part that they will take to be able to buy it, because that's my favorite one of hers. I just love Halloween, and I love that rug and seeing all the kids. It's probably the sister's kids too, all dressed up. So I also pulled up when I was researching her this morning. Where did I put my phone? I pulled up. This is what I do, isn't it? The phone games. Here it is, right here. At least it wasn't in my hat. Remember we were talking about Mary's grandmother, how she always lost her glasses and they were always in her hat? Maybe that'll happen in a little while. I pulled up another article on her, and it was on Questia.com if you're interested. Questia.com. It's written by Raven Haymond, and it's about folk art aging, life story objects, and their makers. And it's a story about folk art and how people who are a little bit older express their memories and the stories of their lives through their chosen folk art. So it's a very nice article, and she's mentioned quite a bit in here. So I pulled that up and read that this morning. I thought that was real interesting. So let's move on. Not that I want to, but the 3 people I want to show you today, if we can, are all extraordinary. This next one is Dorothy Sauber, Sauber. This is a picture of her that I had to print out. This is in the early 80s. Picture by David Miller, 1982. I just think she is so beautiful, so natural, and so beautiful. So I like to look at her stuff, and I've looked at her stuff before. She's from Minneapolis. So she let me just show you her work, and then we'll remark on it. So immediately you're seeing colorful, bright, very graphic. She was quite successful in the 80s. And unfortunately, she died at 61, complications of lung cancer. So she's written essays on lung cancer. She has a website, DorothySauber.com. And a lot of her, I think all of her work is up there. There's an exhibition catalog up there. Her writing is up there. Her struggle with cancer, she wrote about that. So that's up there. There's quite a few things for sale. Also note cards, things like that to support her memory and her causes, because she was an sort of extreme activist and used her rug hooking to make her points. Really beautiful work. So there's a few things about her that I want to point out. By the time this book that I'm looking at was published, she had already passed away. So a lot of it is her friend Sherry's recollection, but she remembers her as being a person who grew up at she describes it as a hardscrabble farm, where there was not a pretty trinket to be seen or had. And when Dorothy was given in the 1950s, as a gift, like one of those little jewelry boxes. You remember them? I have one upstairs. I wish I would have thought to taken it. They were usually white and they looked like fake leather, almost like marbled or granite. And they were usually stamped or embossed with like gold. And they were very simple, but, served the purpose of being a jewelry box. She was given one of those. And because she'd never had anything nice or pretty, it changed her life getting this gift. And as a result, she seemed at that point to turn like all the hardship around her into positives and to have a different viewpoint. It's amazing what one little thing like that can do for a person. So she goes on to study art, and she goes on to be a real activist and worried about minority causes, women's rights, all of the things that you would expect in the 70s, 80s, particularly women, right? Women not making the right amount of money, the same amount of money, not having equal rights. But she fights for everybody in her life and with her art. So this one, for example, is called Wealth Not Freely Given. And it makes a statement. It's this one here. And you see the wealthy family is represented by a house that has the silhouette of a castle, and everybody around them is absolutely killing themselves working. And around their property, they've got something that looks like barbed wire, so that they can be visibly separated from the other people. So a clear case of the haves and have-nots. So that makes a big statement. She's talking about in this article, Dorothy is talking about, because she was a great journalist and diary keeper. She kept a creative diary of what she was working on always. So it was easy to look back in retrospect for friends and family to see what her thoughts were, as, her work evolved, because she was prolific. So she talks about how she always loved textiles and fiber arts, but how when she found rug hooking, she says, when I started making rugs, I was finally able to satisfy my interest in combining the fiber and the painting. Painting was too flat and too cold for my images. The pictorial rug allows me to make the little curves and details and allows the warmth and familiarity of fiber to draw the viewer closer. This is what she wanted, was viewing. She wanted people to see her stuff. There's a reason why her stuff looks like propaganda posters from the early 20th century, because she wants them to. She's attracted to that style. She's attracted to color, boldness. Her heroes she cites as Georgia O'Keeffe and Frida Kahlo. So bold is something that she respects and moves toward. This piece is called All Mom's Little Children, 1986. And again, this is making the point. She's showing the women sitting around with the children on the carpet, taking care of the management of the next generation while, sorry if there's any men on this call, but while all the men are looking out the window and not engaged at all. So this is a statement, right? This is what this is. She was very lucky, not lucky. I mean, she's talented, so she earned what she got, but she did have a lot of exhibitions in her lifetime. Her work was well known and well shown. Not just in Minneapolis, but in like Washington, D.C. and Boston. She had a lot of shows. So she is really, really different in the world of rug hooking. She says she thinks of herself, I think this is a beautiful quote, and I'm going to paraphrase, but she says, I think of myself as my art as a link. She writes this in the early 1980s. I am a link to the women of old who used hooks to pull worn wools and colorful scraps of salvaged cloth through burlap sacks, desperate to add beauty to their everyday needs for bed covers and rugs. Women from humble heritage who never saw themselves as artists until they saw their craft in full bloom. I think that's really beautiful. So this is another one, the house that Jane built. I'm just going to show you these quickly because I pulled up some more stuff on her too, and I want to share that. But this is her work that is in this book, is irrigation. All of it is statement work. If it's not your thing, it's not your thing. If it is your thing, check out her website, dorothysauber.com, because that exhibition catalog is in there. And again, she is just such a beautiful woman. You can tell that inside and out, she's a beautiful woman. These are a couple more of hers. This is one, it's a little bit out of focus, but I got it from online. It's showing, again, the women doing the women's work, which is, you know, the laundry and the hanging out and the cooking and everything else. And just to break it up a little bit, to make the point that not every single one of her pieces had a heavy theme, I think this one's beautiful. This is like shows yarn and sheep floating in the air. It's just a whimsical one. It doesn't have any sort of political backstory. It's not propaganda. It's just graphic and decorative. And what a great example of a graphic artist. You can see how the sheep go into the like popcorn puffs of wool that come onto the bobbins and then into the weave itself. And then the weave comes right toward you. It's almost like it's extending like a road toward you. It's part of the process, but this is just a beautiful example of someone who is obviously a fantastic artist who used her voice for something else for a while. I can't believe it's already 4 minutes up. So I want to also look at Grace Collette. It's just these 2 pages of this one, but you must look. She is in many of the celebrations, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 27, and 28. Grace Collette, again, working on family stories. This one here I'm going to show you is about her son's fishing vessel called La Bella Giulia, after his daughter, and how a rogue wave got them one night in his boat, got him and his crewmates, and the water was so rough that when the rescue helicopter came that was called in from Cape Cod, this was up in Maine that they were having this struggle. They couldn't put the basket thing into the water because they were too scared they would hurt or kill the people who were in the water. They all had their protective suits on, but it was like do or die time. So they ended up dropping a guy down right into the ice cold water. This is on New Year's Eve, and he rescued all hands. So everybody was saved. Beautiful story. And then this beautiful story, there's 2 on this page that I have got to show you. The top one is this campfire scene because her family every year goes to, is it Arcadia National Park or State Park? National Park, isn't it? Yeah, National Park in Maine. I love that. Beautiful place. But what she said when she saw her son with her grandson on the couch in this position with his arm around him, she knew that was going to be the center of it. And she couldn't figure out why her composition was failing when she first started it. And she realized it was partly because she couldn't get the sort of the warmth of the fire and the way that felt. And in the end, you can see she certainly got there. But the thing that was missing for her was the feeling that they were being watched. All the little woodland folk, all the little characters out in the woods that are waiting for the food when they, exhausted themselves and went into their tents, they were all waiting and their presence could be felt, but not in the rug. So she ended up framing this beautiful scene with a raccoon who's kind of waiting to close in and enjoy the night as well. But I just thought that was a beautiful solution to this composition. This is a gorgeous rug also. This is kind of a montage for her because this is her grandson who's doing Geronimo jumps into the water. But she's pulling in tropes from her past, her favorite moments growing up too. She remembers that her parents, super in love, super happy, a lot of singing in the house. It reminds me of that movie, Meet Me in St. Louis, when I was reading about it. So she represents her parents with these 2 bluebirds. And I don't know if you can see, but there's a heart on the tree there that represents their relationship too. So she's got lots of bits and pieces worked into that composition. I'm going to show you rug hooking. Let me see if I can quickly pull it up. Rug hooking had a nice thing. Okay, rug hooking. She's in, if you look at Rug Hooking Magazine's website, Grace Collette, class of 2018. And they're going to show you a bunch of her work. This is one of them. That I think is extraordinary. And she writes, upon retiring, I decided to return to hooking and to hook a deer as a gift for my son, as his passion is hunting. Ready-made patterns seemed to be too formal, so she went ahead and drew this one herself, which I think is extraordinary. Extraordinary. And then these are 2 others of hers that are in celebration and on Rug Hooking website. I've got to show them because they're so beautiful. This one is through a screen door, right? This is like a family vacation spot through a screen door. And this large flower is actually trapunto, which means there's a layer of fabric behind it. The back layer is slit and stuffed to be three-dimensional. So this is actually trapunto and raised. And this is the screen door framing it. Brilliant, right? And then this is another shot through a screen door. Again, another favorite vacation place. So that's Grace Collette. She is absolutely exquisite. And I just realized I didn't show you one of the rugs by Dorothy. I have to leave you with this because this ties up the whole heritage and family thing. Another example, like her sheeps coming down from the clouds into popcorn, into spools, into fabric. This is another whimsical one of hers because there's not many. Most of them make a statement. This one I think is beautiful, and it's based on a rug that she became aware of, a rug that her family had claimed that her grandmother had made that she had never seen. So the family had always said to her, this rug existed, but nobody had seen it for years and years. It's like it got lost in the shuffle of life. And it was a rug like this, a welcome mat with the silhouette of a black horse. So in this composition, she incorporates like a tree of life with what she pictures to be her grandmother's rug, which she had never seen. And when she died at 61, still had not seen. But it's out there somewhere, hopefully. But anyway, these are three of the artists that are featured in this fantastic book called Story Rugs by Paulette Hackman. Highly recommend. It's got to be on Amazon. But I love those three artists, and there's much more research to do on them. So I might have more on any or all of those three later in a future episode. And I just want to remind you that tomorrow is not coffee time, it's cocktail time. And if you want your bingo card to play along with us and have the chance to win, the prize is a gift certificate at ribboncandyhooking.com, which is my site. And if you don't like my patterns, you don't need patterns, just know that I have every color of wool, every kind of backing, every kind of yarn. I just don't have everything up on the site because what I don't have is a lot of time. I don't have every kind of time. But if you end up winning and you're afraid you're not going to find anything you like, I promise you, you will find supplies at the very least that you like. So that will be 7 p.m. tomorrow, Eastern Standard Time. It will be a longer episode than usual. And I will also have, in case you have an issue with commenting on YouTube, and I know that some of you do, Carol, that there's a thing with being locked out of it, not being able to sign in properly or whatever. If you are having that problem, I want you to know that if you get a bingo card, I am also keeping my phone open. It will not be in my hat or on my lap. It will be in my hand. I'm going to have my phone open, and I'm going to have the Facebook page for us open, Rug Hooking and Punch Needle Club, with my messages open. So if you get bingo and you shout bingo and you type bingo and it hits me on Facebook, in our group rather than on YouTube because you struggle with YouTube, that will still reach me on time and you will still be able to win. So don't let technical troubles with YouTube stop you from playing bingo if you want to play bingo. Get as many cards as you want because we're going to make it work. All right, everybody, have a great day. Hi, Marie. Hi, Minnie. Goodbye, Joelle and Penny and Crystal and everybody. Cynthia. I missed some of you coming on, I think, but I will look forward to seeing you dressed all crazy tomorrow for bingo time. Have a great day in the meantime. I'll be thinking of you and working on a great game for tomorrow for us. I'll see you then. Take care.